Commander Cockings and Captain Foley here for yet another Trekyards mission briefing on a Sunday. Weird day, but we are still here to bring you a great discussion show, more relaxed, more casual, discuss, theorise, and work out stuff that you guys know for an upcoming episode.
And today we have a very special ship for you guys. The blast of the prime time Connies, I guess you would call it. The Refit. I'll let you sit with that one for a while. Maybe we have a few other surprises up our sleeve for down the road. But yeah, there's Samuel has one right there. But yes, so we're looking at the Refit, the one we all know and love, and there it is.
Well, nice angle. Yeah, this is the most iconic, definitive, majestic Constitution class, and it is called the Constitution class Refit. So we've gone from cage to production to phase 2. Now we're refitting. So it needs no more introduction. So let's begin.
All right, so the first picture we have the TOS in dry dock, getting ready for the refit.
That's not the refit. You lied.
Oh,
we did the something else Enterprise.
It's going to be the refit. We all know what the refit looks like, so why start with a picture of it? Why not start at the evolution of it? There you go.
So the next picture is obviously the refit and the Connie side by side, and just gives you a straight indication they're actually quite a lot different. While the shapes are the same roughly and the size are the same roughly, all the proportions are different and all the lines are a bit different, and it's just this next evolution.
So the next picture shows it before and after the refit from the top. You can see that the saucer has been quite a bit widened. And also it says that the grid line pattern has changed for the deflector grid to kind of enhance it, so to speak. So yeah, very neat. And also the main obvious thing that sticks out in these changes is the pylons, the struts for the engines.
Quite radical in redesign. They just went
yeah, so
but it's a holdover from the phase 2 design which we talked about last time. So and the next one is a great little cross section. It gives you a sense of how much space is firing a torpedo. Beautiful. And again, just like I talked about with the original Constitution classes, that deflected dish took up a lot of space in the secondary hull. This one is pretty compact. They've really refined that technology. And
it's right in front of the warp core. As you can see, the main warp core runs up the length of the ship and then down along the spine to the engines, which is a very cool. Well, it does seem kind of dangerous to have their torpedo launcher directly above the junction point for where it splits, eh? Just in case there's a misfire or a.
I mean, these are high yield explosives next to a high yield creation of energy device. I mean, that would you really put your most powerful weapon next to your energy generator?
Maybe.
I don't know. And because this is clearly firing weapons, and you sort of lose this until you really think about it, but you can see all the phaser lines. There's 2 phaser turrets on the top and bottom of the saucer.
Yeah.
There's a phaser turret at the bottom and at the aft. That's interesting.
All right, so the next shot is of the shuttle bay, and we see shuttle coming in for landing there. So this has got quite a larger shuttle bay compared to the TOS one. That
dramatically bigger, absolutely.
Yeah.
What's interesting about this, and I love, I know it's in the movie, but you never really get a sense of, like, a full sense of this. But this picture is great because obviously they've got the landing bay, and then there's basically a step, and then you got the cargo bay, and it's so 3D, and it really just makes a lot of sense given how the ship is proportioned and where the lines are. It's really fun to see.
And then, of course, in later versions, the shuttle bay changes quite a bit, and that large cargo area kind of disappears. So it's kind of more like a wall or doors there for shuttles.
So the next picture is the first of the bridges. Now we've got a little slideshow here. This is the first bridge, the motion picture bridge, the very sleek white, almost no color bridge, but it's a revolution, it's an evolution, it's more developed than the Connie, finally has more displays, although it has less buttons, I think, overall.
Yeah, and there's more standing stations than sitting on the TOS one.
Looks like it's designed for less people as well, overall.
Yeah, and the biggest change, of course, is the addition of 2 turbolifts instead of the 1.
Yes.
But that leads to the next picture. This is from Star Trek 2.
Yep, color palette's changed a little bit, not a lot, and it's interesting to see before and after how really it's the same basic bridge, just with a few slight changes.
Yeah, this is probably one of my most favorite bridges, I would think.
Yep, so the next bridge is the amazing, legendary, iconic Star Trek 4 bridge, the Refit, the best bridge that we know. No, it isn't there for 5 minutes. Less than 5 minutes, 2 minutes, 1 minute.
And yet it's one of my favorite bridges from what I see of it.
Yes, it's sleek, it's elegant. You actually get LCARs for the first time.
Yes.
Those
The only thing I
5
don't
minutes.
really like is the flooring because it looks stuck down and there's bubbles and ripples in it. But this set was meant to be used in the next movie, and sadly, it was left out in the rain, and most of it got destroyed. So they just rebuilt a whole new set for Star Trek Five. So,
Which could have been a good thing though, because this was just a change of the last bridge. They actually had to build a brand new bridge for the next one.
all right. So the next picture has both the Star Trek Five and the Star Trek Six bridges, and it's very interesting because there's a lot of similarities, but there's also a lot of differences.
Hmm.
One of the first things I noticed right away is the helm console is pretty much exactly the same,
Yes.
but obviously the stepping beside them, the stairs there are much different.
Less
As is
carpeting.
as is the placement of the turbo lifts. The turbo lifts on Star Trek Six are more on the side of the bridge as opposed to the rear.
So that's
So
so does that mean there are those 2 new bubbles on each side of the?
you would think so, but there aren't.
Hmm. One thing I noticed, obviously, the color palette changes from this sort of sleeker silver to a much darker, much blacker, and suddenly redder Star Trek Six bridge, which I like. I like this darkness because it's still highlighted by the lots of silvers and the whites. I think the overload of the blue with the whites doesn't work so well in the 5 bridge, but in the 6 bridge it's just the right amount of light and dark, I think.
Yeah, I tend to agree with that. I mean, I like the Star Trek Six bridge. It looks more militaristic. So the next picture is just another picture of it in dry dock, getting its refit done.
Well, a sketch anyway. This is one of the initial sketches of it being developed, wasn't it?
Yes, absolutely. And it's cool to see the differences in the warp engines, how they got the black lines underneath now too.
Mm-hmm.
And is that like the old style deflector dish still, or is that the yellowish?
I can't
I don't
tell.
know. It's hard to tell.
I don't know. I like how though they've got paneling coming out of the saucer because they're still building it. You never really get to see those holes, and it's kind of fun. Yeah. So the next one is pretty awesome. It's firing those phaser ball turrets, which are not phaser banks in the same way we normally think of them. They're firing basically pulse phasers at a Klingon bird of prey, and doing a pretty good job at making them not like being in this battle.
Yeah, I'm not a huge fan of that phaser aesthetic. We talked about that in the
Reliant. Yep.
the Miranda episode. I mean, it is kind of neat. It's very dramatic and more theatrical, maybe. I don't know, but I'm not a huge fan of them. I think a solid phaser beam would be much more destructive.
Yeah.
But then again, the punch, and we talk about that in the other episodes. So, and let's move to the next picture. This shows the actual filming model, the Aztecing and the coloring, the pearlescent colors.
Yes.
Lots of different colors pop out at you in different lighting, so it's very dramatic and one of my favorite looks.
Yeah, Andrew Probert talked about how they added a little bit of different colouring to each different tiles and Aztecing to get this sheen and shine and feel as it went past camera. A nightmare though, because the blue spill hit every one of them differently, so they had to spend a whole load of money to fixing that in post, and it wasn't in the subsequent versions. But a great idea, and if they could do it now, it'd look amazing. So the next one is, again, this is funny, this is showing the genuine colour of white the hull is, the original model, because, it's got to be the right colour of white, or off-white.
Yeah, and just also this shows the gradients of the gray and the black that were used as well. Another thing worth pointing out here is the little red pinstriping around the hatches and around the navigation lights, which were part of Andrew Probert's original pinstriping motif he had. Of course, we do see that reflected in the registry number around the actual digits, and a little bit around the bridge as well. But there was a lot more added. They're supposed to be added to the warp nacelles and whatnot, which wasn't. So it's a very cool little fact. So next one shows a close-up of the filming model bridge. You get to see all the detail involved there.
It's a lot of detail.
And the different colors. And again, a closer look at that pinstriping, which just kind of gives it that little bit extra that it kind of makes it pop.
So the next one is, again, the Star Trek 6 bridge, this time a 3D render. The captain's chair does not look overly comfy, but that's okay.
I miss my old chair.
Yeah.
Well, the next picture is, of course, from Star Trek 2. We get to see the kind of differences that the bridge evolved from, This has a metal grating as well, which is very submarine-esque, but that's because it was Nicholas Meyer that did this one, as well as 6, actually. So he's very military and submarine battle, so that's why the bridges kind of reflect that with his movies. So
I do think this bridge, it's a lot more Spartan. It does not feel as operational and effective. I'm sorry, by a long way.
Well, yeah, I can see that, but at the same time, simple is better sometimes.
But you still need to operate the ship.
I know, but it's not, you know, I don't know. This is the future. Ape brain, come on. You only need one button to make it do many things.
And the next picture is Andrew Probert's original sketch of how the interior space could have worked. Because obviously you're building a physical ship, but the things that you see in the film needs to be inside the ship. So this gives you a good sense of how big the shuttle bay is and the cargo bay, and then also the how the warp engine goes into the impulse engines and how it all interconnects.
Mm. Now I'm wondering too how thick that warp shaft is that goes up to the impulse crystal, because I've heard debates about how the turbo lifts and that could both coexist in the neck or the dorsal of the ship. So if anybody knows the dimensions, would be great, because that was a question that was asked on the Trekyards page. How can the turbo lift actually go through there with that going through as well? So
it's true. And aren't you also glad that whatever's going down or up, there's no radiation? Because if you had turbo lift down next to the warp core every day, you'd be, oh dear, do I have to go on to engineering? Okay, that's 10 minutes off my life expectancy every time. Oh dear.
Yeah, Mirror Universe guys would be in trouble because they don't have the radiation shielding.
They would be.
All right, so the next picture is an interior of the cargo area. You can see the upper part there is the shuttle deck. So it is kind of interesting to see how cavernous the inside of this thing is. You never really see this very much in the show, but those cargo containers are pretty cool the way they stack together too. So.
And it implies that the original version of the ship, obviously we see in Starship 5, this is not how it finally ends up being. You know, the refit, as it were. They obviously expect a lot more cargo in this version of the ship, like for a mission that really involves that sort of situation, I guess.
Maybe, and it's the first time we really see a lifeboat hatch too on the right there. Well, magnified version too. But where are the escape pods on the Connie and the Refit? It's something I've always wondered, because there are no visible lifeboat hatches as there are in every other.
Well, it doesn't always need to be. I mean, the Defiant, where are the lifeboat hatches on that?
True. I don't know. It's just an interesting question. How many lifeboats are there on the Connie or the Refit? Either, like.
Well, yeah, I think this is a ship that we all, as fans who are really big fans of the ship, have a sense of the internal space.
Yeah.
And where do you fit, 300 lifeboats, or I guess, maybe 100 or whatever. But that's, I don't know. Anyway, the next picture is a close-up of the impulse engines, which is a not radical, but certainly an evolution from the TOS one. Much chunkier, yet still sleek, which I love. I love that balance. It feels a bit more punch. It feels more drive, and the orange I think works. Yeah.
I'm a fan of this design. It looks really cool. I like the grading. I don't know. There is grading on the TOS one. You never see it though. You can see it when you build the models, obviously. But yeah, this is just a nice advancement, kind of refinement of the shape. So
yeah.
Next picture is the main warp, or the main engine room.
Yes.
So you got the warp core there, and the long length going down the spine of the ship to the actual pylons themselves.
And this is sort of the real warp core design, version 1, as it were, because of the TOS version is a bit different. So this is the from now on warp core. And it is different, and if you look, it is interconnected parts in a much more interconnected way than other drives. So I don't know.
That kind of implies that maybe if parts of it get damaged, there's spares available that they can swap in and out and repair the section they pull out.
That makes a lot of sense. Absolutely.
Take the warp drive offline, and yeah.
Yes, the next picture is a fun one. It's both ships put together to really get a sense of the design. And again, from the eye sees them as almost the same, but they're different. All the shapes are different. It's interesting.
Yeah, the TOS engines ride a little higher. And the front of the secondary hull with the deflector just sticks out farther on the TOS one. We got the ghost image of the Refit. Well, that's what it is, basically.
Yeah, right.
You can see the difference in dimensions on the saucer section and also the rear of the secondary hull. So it's very cool to see it this way. Yeah, this is one of my favorite shots, the next one. The purple glow from those warp chiller grills. They are actually supposed to be purple. Later movies they appear blue, but it's just because of the filters they use. So the 350 scale model I'm building is going to be the UV purple like that. But I love seeing it reflected off the Aztecing, those struts. And just the lighting in this picture has always struck my eye. This picture's been around for quite a while. So
I don't like the purple, but that's just me. Although I notice at the top of the nacelles there's a circle of blue internal light.
That is, I forget what they're called now. there's some kind of warp crystal that enhances the warp effect. Yeah, they're going to be lit on my model too.
Cool. Awesome.
They're lit blue.
Yeah, so the next picture is quite a simple one. It just shows the difference in, do you remember when you've watched all those different Trek movies and you think, hey, that deflector is orange, and hey, it's blue. Well, guys, it's both. And we talked about this in the Refit episode with Andrew Probert. It powers up from a black to an orange to blue being full power.
Yeah, so orange is more of a standby mode.
Yep, so the next picture is another great side view. Again, shows you everything. And one thing I see straight away is underneath the warp core is the matter/antimatter storage facility. Oh, that's dangerous.
Well, that's what I was going to point out in this one. Is you were asking earlier where the reaction happens, and as you can see, I think it's right underneath where it splits off to the spine there. That's where we saw that engine room is. But yeah, there's a different shape right above the antimatter storage facility, so I'm assuming that's where the main reaction happens, and then is fed up to both the impulse and the warp engines.
Well, they like to live on the edge, don't they? Because having matter and antimatter together, and then, wow.
So that reaction's happening basically right in front of the Arboretum. So you're there having a coffee, enjoying your off time, and feet away there's a dangerous reaction.
You can see the wall glowing, just pulsating. It's like, oh, yep, there's the warp core. Yep, there's. God, I would not want to be over that. And again, why would you ever have something that precious on the edge of the hull? If Khan knew and shot again there, it's game over. I know there's some amount of space you can put in, but still, I don't know. Yeah,
it does seem kind of odd that way, but that goes to the whole targeting the bridge module and stuff. That's why we have shields. That's what Gene Roddenberry said. That's why there are shields.
Very true.
And no shields go down, but. All right, so the next one is a more detailed cross-section, showing all the decks. And, of course, there's only, up to U deck, so like 20-some-odd decks. There's not 73 like you see in Star Trek V.
But Stuart, that's canon. We see it on screen.
That annoys me. I don't hate Star Trek V as much as a lot of people do, but that's one of those things in that one that just irks me to no end.
It's one of those few things that doesn't matter how hard they try, something gets through and something you have to retcon because it just doesn't work. Although you would think that in the remastered, it's not going to be, if they did a director's cut like they did with, the motion picture, and I dare to say like they did with, George Lucas's Star Wars films, that's something that is worth fixing, honestly, guys. And it wouldn't be the worst thing in the world, and you could probably even do a 3D model of them going up. I mean, it's a big problem because it doesn't make sense and it doesn't work. I don't know.
Well, yeah, and we mentioned this in the last picture too, that on U deck, you have the reactor. So yes, this is where the reaction takes place. Intermech shaft, antimatter bottles, matter reserve tanks, Bizarre collectors on U deck.
Bizarre collectors. That's interesting.
So that's those things on each side of the right here and here and here. They're Bizarre collectors on this. Around it.
I just thought the bottom deck is
And it's also worth noting there's a swimming pool and a jacuzzi pool back down there.
So they said
they're heated by the reaction of the antimatter.
So Andrew Probert said, I think there should be a jacuzzi. Where, Andrew? Next to the warp core. Next to the matter antimatter reaction. It's like, really, Andrew? Yes.
It's not next to it. I think it's down further underneath the cargo area, but still.
That's brilliant. Or they ran out of space. No, we need a jacuzzi. Where have we got left to build? The last deck. Okay. So the next picture is an interesting one. I wonder what the situation is to cause this, but it's separation of the refit, and then the drive section is just sort of going off for a coffee or something. I don't know.
It is worth pointing out this is kind of wrong in a way, because if you look at the top of the dorsal or the neck there, it's curved to the shape of the saucer. And as we know, once it separates, that's not how it is. There's an actual separation line. So it should be straight across.
So you're saying shame on you, 3D modeler?
Yes. But still an interesting image, and you never see it separated, so it's cool to see. The next picture is an internal shot of the corridors. Not a big fan of these. They are nice and bright, which is kind of nice, because if I'm going to be in cramped quarters, I want it to at least be bright.
I think we all love the, green and red and blue light at the top, telling you something.
Those actually do convey information.
Well, I'm sure they do, but,
From what I've heard over the years, it's how many people are in the corridor and roughly where they're located. I don't know.
So next image is a bit confusing, first impression, but this is in the shuttle bay. But what I see is 3 work bees, which is awesome and definitely worth having.
But yeah, because those are the work bay docking ports where they recharge. There's 3 on that side, 3 on the other side, and of course we're standing where this picture's taken. Our back is basically to open space or the doors.
Oh, are we okay?
Because you're looking towards the cargo area.
Have you got space suits on? Are we okay?
I'm going to be fine. Yes, I've got the.
What? I'm not. What?
No, you're screwed. I mean, I got the life support belt from the animated series, so I should have a yellow line around me right now. I'll come back, Samuel. You're fine. But yeah, it is cool to see the work bees there. They do have them on board, obviously, for repairs and whatnot when they're out in the field. Well, let's move on to the next picture. This just shows, again, that the lower part is not only cargo but also storage. You can store bigger shuttles, and they have elevators that raise up and down. And as you can see, they can pull forward and kind of store underneath the main deck there. So
I have never seen that in terms of perspective. That's really interesting. So it also has work bees, shuttles, and full-on supply shuttles, I guess. It's interesting. And why green, do you think, as an internal colour?
It's a good question. I have no idea.
And the next picture is the same space, but from the outside again. And again, we see the work bee, looks great. We see the green, and we see the levels. And it's such a big shuttle bay.
But yeah, it's cool to see the work bee going into or out of its slot there. And also the standard cargo containers that we see all the time in TNG.
Now, I've got to ask a serious question.
Oh, good God.
Yeah. Do you think the work bees... So obviously, you're a work bee crewman, right? You work the work bee. Do you think you have your own work bee with your name on it and your own parking space? Because, I mean, you don't want to go to Jeremy's work bee and he's got wrappers everywhere, he's got a burger lying around and it's just gross and you have to go in a parking space.
Centerfold up in.
I mean, you've got to have your own work bee, your own parking space, and it's printed on.
I would imagine so. Yeah, they were assigned a certain work bee, and yeah, I would want my name in on it, like a fighter jet.
Parking space, guys. It's important. We need to think of this stuff. And the next one is the work in progress development of the torpedo launchers. What could have been, and again, Andrew Probert did talk to us about how they could have been actual doors that open and close. They went for always open.
Yeah, I love this picture because look, they got the little shark face like they had on the old warplanes, and also mine launchers. So mine launchers and photon torpedo tubes, which is neat.
That would have been something. But then I do like the shape that we got for torpedo launchers and not those circles. I don't know.
True. And I would assume that both mines and torpedoes could be launched from those same tubes.
Yeah.
All right, so the next picture just shows it in size comparison to the Enterprise B and the Enterprise C.
Oh, so, it's the little brother, isn't it?
It is.
It's the B. The B is the older brother who's somehow 6'5", and the C is the brother that put on a bit of weight.
Maybe. Just an interesting picture that was worth adding in here. So.
And it gives you a real sense of time progression because these, just the warp engine of the C is most of the size of the A, and obviously the same for the C. But it gives you such a sense of scale. This was before the boom of technology, before they really pushed into that next stage of bigger, grander, more years of exploration.
Technology unchained, as Gene Roddenberry put it.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. So the next one is intriguing. I'm not sure what I'm looking at. Is it a steampunk Enterprise or?
No, it's a model of the refit basically. Because basically what happened with the refit was it was built on the substructure of the main ship, of the TOS ship. That's why it's a little bit bigger, because it was built on the same superstructure. This is just a modeler's version of it. If you want to move to the next picture, actually, it shows it a little bit better. This one, of course, they haven't removed the old, exterior plating, which they would have. It's just a neat little take on it. I found this very interesting.
I mean, I think people have got to ask, when you think of the refit, if everything looks so different, is it still a refit if you just replace the saucer, replace the secondary hull, replace the engines? But this shows, no, they didn't replace, they just added on to. And I think this visualizes a procedure which would have been great to have seen. Tobias, get on it, seriously.
Yeah.
But
and this also explains why the saucer is just slightly bigger, because they're actually building on the old saucer. So it's wider, a little bit longer.
All you've got to argue, is this more time efficient than just building it from scratch? given you've got to take out all the internal plumbing, the wiring, the dead bodies in between the bulkheads. I mean, I don't know.
It's a good question. I mean, just making it from scratch might have been.
Just for the impulse drive. I mean, they're basically ripping out the old one, tunneling back through the ship. I mean, there's a lot of changes. But it takes on to the next one, where you get to see a really interesting shot of the deflector. The torpedo launcher is obviously in there already, and then, like I said, just the superstructure has been placed over. It's interesting, yeah.
It's kind of just a modeler's version of it.
Yeah.
Because obviously the warp core would be somewhere in there. So I don't think the deflector goes back quite that far.
Well, we saw that in the original Connie. It did, but they probably just haven't taken that out yet to put in the new drive, the new warp core. So.
Good point. Yeah. So yeah, I really like this take on it, and it's cool to see it in this kind of stage.
Fascinating.
And the next picture is, of course, the real model, filming model from Christie's auction. So you get to see that detail that's involved in that up close, which is amazing. This is
an art that's almost been completely lost in time, but when you can look back and be like, wow, that is incredible. The detail on that, and just the variety of colour. You never really get this sense fully in the show, but that is so different, It's the shades of everything. It's incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next picture is, of course, the Christie ship again. You get to see basically that blue stripe in the middle of the dorsal is where the warp core would be. So it's worth pointing that out. And also that red, those two red lines, that's the separation for the saucer. So as you can see, once it separates there, it would be straight across, not curved.
And the two triangles on either side are the explosive bolts that come apart, which we will talk about later. That's interesting. And we talked about
earlier,
and in phase 2, I believe, that in some versions there are those two black strips around the edge of the saucer. Well, in the real version, they have three lines of strips, but they're actually 4 individual strips. I wonder what purpose they serve.
They're sensor bands.
There we go.
Yes, they're short-range sensors and also part of the deflector grid.
Very interesting.
Next one, of course, is on the bottom. Now, the TOS one had hatches there. These ones are the same kind of thing. They're just designed for docking of a small ship or gangway, like I said. But they're hidden, so they hide underneath doors. And you do see that in the motion picture when Spock goes outside. So.
Yeah, you always need airlocks for some parts of any mission. So yeah, it's good to see. And the next picture is the one and only Andrew Probert with the one and only Enterprise refit. And I'm glad he got that picture in back all those years ago, because it's sort of a classic picture you always see in your research of the refit. Yeah.
Young Andy Probert. Next picture, of course, is how the observation round should have looked, according to Andrew Probert's designs. Yeah. So this has been done up by somebody to show the correct way it should look. And there too, you see the purple warp chiller grills. They're not blue. They're purple.
Very true. Because in the original movie, as you saw, it was just 3 windows of blank stars or whatever, because the budget couldn't handle this. But someone went in and cut around the people and actually put what should have been. But this would have been quite a large CG expenditure, especially at the time. Or a matte painting, but again, it wouldn't have necessarily looked as good, and just timing didn't allow. But it certainly opens up the scope of the ship. And I know a lot of 3D models actually have this as part of the space, because this is the view you would have seen. And it shows you what the official couches of the Enterprise A look like.
Yes, this of course is the officers' lounge, located on like C deck underneath the bridge. So
yeah, the lower end officers don't get the cushions, only the officers do.
That's right.
So the next picture is a phenomenal picture, a diagram, real sense of scale shot, which shows the internal structure and the scale of people, and just so much to look at. And it actually really does show that the shuttle bay, we can see the 3 layers or levels, and that bit really goes into the hull. I mean, that basically implies the entire secondary hull, roughly, at least the bottom section, is a shuttle bay and a cargo bay. The entire section, which you never really think of.
Yeah, and there's even above the arboretum, it's still cargo bay. And if you look on the bottom, right underneath the reflector, you can see all the antimatter matter bottles. And yeah, very cool shot. And you can see the turbolift there in the neck, going up alongside, but I don't know at the top where it goes.
And it meets the docking port, so I guess you can either dock into the turbolift tube. Yeah.
Interesting.
Awesome, great photo.
Right, so the next photo shows, this is a storyboard sketch from the motion picture,
Yes.
as it was supposed to end with a saucer separation.
Yes.
And you can see, we just talked about this, the separation line where the explosive bullets explode off, and then the two triangular pieces that fall away.
But it's cool, you never really get to see this, and it would have been definitely good to have seen it in some form or another. Again, Tobias, get on that.
Absolutely.
And the next photo is our last photo. It's the Majestic A going through the warp we'd know and love from TNG. Beautiful lighting, beautiful everything, and it's an oldie now, the design, but boy is it a classic, and just elegant and beautiful. And that says so much about the design from Andrew Probert, that it still looks as good today as it did back then.
Yeah, this is a beautiful shot and a beautiful ship. And I really enjoy doing these Connie episodes. So,
yeah. So, any closing thoughts on the Constitution class refit, Stuart?
Beautiful ship, one of my favorites by far. And please put any comments or anything you know about the turbolift shafts or what those little squares are on the engines in the comments below. We will, of course, discover that all in my multitude of reference material I have for the final episode. Detailing the ship in all its glory, but please comment below and let us know.
Yeah, my closing thoughts. Well, I think I just had my closing thoughts. It's beautiful and it's elegant, and you can always do a render, a new scene, a new show with this ship, and it would still look amazing. Although pick your bridge, because there's lots to choose from. Yep, so that is it for the Constitution class refit. This is our 4th Connie from the cage to production to phase 2 to refit, and it's interesting to see, what you guys have thought about all 4. There's a lot of different opinions out there. I mean, some people like the cage the best, some people like, the Connie, the production the best. It'll be interesting to see what you guys think of these two. So do let us know in the comments below. Any questions you have, any information and if you're Andrew Probert, message us as well. Tell us any information that because, you might know some of the stuff. And of course, check out our full episode with him, a design episode, which we did a little while ago. And then this will be such a fun episode when we finally do the Legends next year, because there is so much information and we can really flesh this all out. So that is it for refit. Like I said, comment below anything you want, comment on our Facebook, subscribe to YouTube, and if you can, guys, always click the donate button on our website, because every little helps. $5 would help more than you know. So,
and don't forget to share this with other Trekkies who will appreciate it.
Yep, so that is it for our special mission briefings. Happy 50, Stuart.
Thank you. Happy 50 to you as well.
And here's to a whole lot more. So from myself and
Captain Foley.
See you next time, guys.
Bye.